Welcome to Beta Online Learning. In this video, we are going to see the psychology for NIOS Secondary 10th Grade Psychology, Module 2, Basic Psychological Processes. And the topic is learning. The major subtopics are: what is learning? Types of learning: classical learning and operant or instrumental learning. Reinforcement and observational learning. Other types of learning. Transfer of learning. These are the major subtopics we are going to see. Let us go into the video. First subtopic is: what is learning? Learning is defined as a relatively durable change in behavior due to experience. Durable means lasting, or it takes time and it lasts for more time. That is, lasts for almost a lifetime. So learning is defined as a relatively durable change in behavior due to experience. So it is learning is related to experience. If the change in behavior is temporary or due to instinct or maturation, it is not learning. It is simply change, that's all. The key feature of learning is experience. Any change in behavior in the absence of practice or experience does not qualify as learning. So we need practice, which means experience, for learning. And that causes change in the behavior. Types of learning. The two basic types of learning are classical conditioning and operant or instrumental conditioning. In addition, we have observational learning, verbal learning, concept learning, and skill learning. We shall see that in later. First, classical conditioning is learning through association. It was discovered by a Russian scientist, Sir Ivan P. Pavlov, also called Pavlovian conditioning. He was interested in studying the stimulus-response relationship. His experiment was concerned with the salivary response of the dog. He realized that the salivary response had been learned by the dog. Actually, in this experiment, we will be seeing the response of the dog. The salivary response means salivation means it's actually the secretion of saliva, the salivary glands. And due to the stimulus created by food, it can be associated with an unconditional, or rather a conditional stimuli, which is called a bell or a buzzer or a noise, or any other sound that is associated with the salivary food, that is secretion. So along with food, we sound a buzzer or something like that. The salivary responds to that, and the dog is able to realize that the food has been served. So whenever the buzzer is sounded, so this is called the salivary response that has been learned by the dog due to a conditional stimulus. The conditional stimulus will be the bell, buzzer, or bell. This is called classical conditioning or learning through association. Operant conditioning is modification of behavior through reinforcement. It is a process through which organisms learn to repeat behaviors that produce positive outcomes or avoid or escape from the negative outcomes. B.F. Skinner is considered the most influential psychologist advocating the role of operant conditioning in learning. He introduced the Skinner's rat experiment, where the rat is also trained by means of an operating a trap, a sort of a lever. Whenever a lever is operated, the rat gets food. So it tries to operate the lever and the food is dropped. So the learning or the training is taking place with a rat, or this can also be simulated by means of a human being also. Reinforcement and observational learning is another type of learning. This is observational learning. The types of reinforcement: reward, that is positive reinforcement, where the reward that increase the strength of a specific behavior. Any stimulus that strengthens a response that precedes it. These are the positive reinforcements. The negative reinforcement is, it involves an application of an aversive stimulus, hatred, a stimulus which is aversive. It is a reinforcement because it increases the rate of response. It's also a reinforcement, but on the negative, in the negative direction. It is aversive. The stimulus is aversive. Based on negative reinforcement, there are two types of negative learning: escape learning and avoidance learning. We try to escape that particular type of learning if it is aversive. Avoidance is try to avoid, totally avoid that learning. Observational learning is another. This in observational learning, we have acquiring new skills by observing the behavior of others. It depends on the existence of an appropriate model in one's environment. So there must be some model to observe, and we follow that model. So we learn from that model. So by acquiring new skills, by observing the behavior of others, we learn various social roles through observational learning. We like to speak like students try to imitate, try to observe the teacher or parents, and then they learn. The same way they talk, they speak, and so many other things. Social roles are being taken up by them through observational learning. Other types of learning: verbal learning. The process of learning language is called verbal learning. Learning a language other than the mother tongue. Even learning spoken English, French, German, and other languages is included in this type of learning. Speech is involved in that learning. Concept learning is, on the other hand, this is about developing categories of objects and events. Concept involves a variety of objects clubbed together. Concept, that is called concept. Use of categories or class names helps us to communicate and perform different activities. The concepts may be natural or artificial, abstract, and concrete. Natural may be natural, or it can be created by an artificial means, or it can be abstract and concrete. On the other hand, it can be abstract, concrete. Abstract is imaginary, that is cannot be felt. Concrete is tangible. Concrete is tangible means it can be felt. So there is some concepts may be like that, and some concepts are like abstract, and some are concrete. Skill learning, an important area of learning, involves acquiring of various types of skills like riding a bicycle, writing. Requires some practice, of course. Training, something like learning through training, trying to hold a pen and write, handwriting skills, bicycle, cooking, all this. There are many skills you can learn. by means of this type of acquiring various types of skills. This type of learning is called skill learning. Transfer of learning refers to the process of using earlier learning in a new situation. Whatever you have learned before in some other situation, in a new situation, it is positive. If it creates a positive effect if the first learning helps the second learning. Means you are trying to relearn, learn something new, and then we keep on adding to our first learning experience. After all, learning is an experience. So we add more to our experience and enrich our previous learning, first learning. And the second learning becomes much better than the first learning. It is positive. It can be negative if the first learning interferes with the second learning. It will create confusion. We have learned something in a situation in the beginning, and the second learning we say may have some conflicts, of course, interfering, and therefore it is a negative type of learning. It gives a negative effect. Confusion will be created. That's all. It can be zero if the first learning neither helps nor interferes with the second learning. This is all about learning. And for additional information, to learn more about different learning experiments, in detail visit this website about the experiments, learning experiments. Thank you.